Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Velasquez. I am the Director of Customer Experience here at JobPixel, and welcome to the third installment of our very first TA webinar summer series. I'm actually here today to introduce the moderator for today's event. She has been a force in TA for over a decade, which means she started at 15. And then she can now be found kind of most recently helping people find passion again in their careers through coaching. It is a privilege to know her, and I can say it has been an honor to actually get to work for her. I've always told her that if I had to describe her as a song lyric, that it would be that she is a woman with uninterrupted prosperity who uses a machete to cut through red tape. So without further ado, founder of the Network Concierge and my good friend, Susan Collins.
Thank you so much. And ever since you've introduced me to that song, it's kind of become my mantra. So I appreciate that, Laura. Thank you so much to JobPixel for having us today. I am so excited to be here. I've got two amazing women to introduce you to. But before we do that, we're going to start with one quick poll. Laura's going to put the poll up, and then we are going to spend the next hour talking about candidate engagement. So our first poll, we'd love for everyone to vote, is how would you rate your current candidate experience? And while you're voting on that, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Diane Smith and Jayne Kettles. They have both been in the TA tech industry for 20 years. They're really serial entrepreneurs. They were co-founders of a global applicant tracking company named Virtual Edge. I'm sure some of you have heard of that. They sold it to ADP, and now they are the co-founders of GR8 People. So they both bring an unwavering commitment to why they do what they do, which is working alongside just an amazing team and remarkable customers, which I can proudly say I'm a former customer. So I was so excited to be here today because I know the passion behind this brand and their love of great people. It's a real treat to have both Diane and Jayne with us today. They're excited to talk to us about talent technology, today's candidate engagement. And so let's start by looking at this poll, and then we'll dig in. Laura, how does the poll look?
Okay.
How would you rate? Okay, so we've got 37% poor. No, we've got 3% poor, 81% adequate, and 16% great. Jayne and Diane, how do you feel about that? Are you surprised?
No, I mean, from my purview, no, I'm not surprised because, again, it's a great topic for us to be talking about today. And again, with everything going on in today's world about, there are a ton of different openings, not enough talent to fill them. It all starts with engagement of talent pools. How do we find the best people? So the results don't surprise me. So I think today's going to be super exciting.
Well, I'm excited. So let's start with, what is GR8 People?
Okay, so GR8 People is a total talent acquisition technology platform. And we have always been under the guise of companies have one workforce. So why do they continue to need numerous technologies to help them hire or engage one person? So with GR8 People, what we do is we provide a technology platform that helps companies source, attract, engage, and hire every workforce type. Again, full-time, part-time, contingent, gig, really anytime. And we enable them to do that in one seamless solution. And it seems to be going over quite well because we support lots of companies all over the world. And like customers like you were, happy, committed, and seeing the results that they expect.
I felt like you were always committed to my results.
Always.
Always. So let's talk through, how has the candidate experience evolved over time?
Yeah, so I'll take that question. So I think that, the expectation is knowing a lot about an organization before they sometimes raise their hand to apply for a role. So what does that mean? So that means that visitors to your career site are looking for understanding things like flexibility in their work environment. What is the culture and the ethics of an organization? Making sure that they understand in the job descriptions, really a day in the life and meeting other people on their team. So the bar is pretty high. And I think that's why kind of that adequate is kind of there. In the past, the recruiter was responsible for a lot of that, right? So at the beginning of the process, they were, telling them about the organization, telling them about, the role, what the hiring process is like. And that paradigm shift has definitely been self-service, and they really know a tremendous about an organization. So, the bar is higher, I think, for organizations that are competing for top talent, for people that are looking for jobs to understand exactly, what it is that it means to work for an organization, what the role is. And, they're also receiving, multiple offers and competitive offers. So it's a high bar for not only kind of that initial visit, but how are you upping your game on connecting with them and the different communication channels that they prefer to communicate in.
You're right. I remember like in the day, right? Like it was the recruiter's job to get them sold on the company, and you spend a lot of time doing that. And over time, as more and more technology has come in, it's really shifted. So walk me through why a great candidate experience matters and maybe what metrics you should be looking at.
Yeah, I think that, definitely stats that you're tracking on your career site. So how long are people spending on your site? What are your bounce rates? I think there was a study that LinkedIn put out there where 59% of candidates that after they've discovered a job out there on the internet, they jump to the company's career site to learn more. So are you seeing that type of stickiness with the content that you're publishing? Is one definitely sign of engagement. I think drop-off rates. I think that when we think about the beyond kind of the initial engagement and attraction side, what does your apply process look like? Is there, not a lot of friction to understand more about the individual who's looking to work for you, are some of the stats.
So, we're big on this just because of COVID and what has happened the last couple of years, right? Empathy. And they have stated that over 65% of any job seeker knows more about you prior to engaging with them, because they truly care about the culture. They care about the environment that they are going to sign up for. I think the other thing that we know today and people are experiencing is that people just don't want a job. They don't need to find just a job. They want to find the right job. So in order for companies to find, the best talent and job seekers wanting to find the best job, there needs to be an intersection of how we do that better together. So that's, again, comes back to the engagement side.
It's amazing to see how many people kind of woke up during COVID, and it wasn't about the job they had put their head down and done for years. It was about like, what am I getting out of this too, right? What am I getting out of this? What am I giving back to the world? So it's been an interesting pivot, I think, for TA leaders. What do you think are maybe the top 3 struggles that TA leaders have around candidate experience?
Well, I definitely think attracting the right candidate is still a struggle. So that comes along with, where you are, posting your positions, how much content are you making available so that they do raise their hand. I think a second struggle would probably be, how do I keep up with nurturing people, like knowing where they are in their talent acquisition life cycle? So, that's pretty much probably impossible to be really great at if you don't have an assistive technology keeping track of kind of where somebody is in the cycle. And then going along with that is, understanding what messages should be sent and when they should be sent. So kind of the strategy, but also kind of the tactical implementation of those things, I think are struggles that current TA has.
Yeah, and when I think about it in three simple buckets, right? I think about it as, to Jayne's point, attraction. The second bucket is going to be engagement, truly the nurturing side, the engagement side. And lastly, it's great to have all these beautiful career sites and automation and AI and chat and all the tools, video that helps support that. But I need to have conversion, right? We need to really understand the metrics of, are we doing the right thing? Where can we do things better? And the technology should help us tell that story.
And we've kind of had that throughout this series, right? Like, we've got to be able to step up as talent acquisition leaders to the business and talk business with them, right? So we've got to be able to talk about ROI. We've got to be able to help them understand how we contribute to the business, or they just pat us on the heads and send us along and say, fill the next job.
Yeah, we had a customer that when they implemented, again, our CRM technology, they were having, it took 48 to 36 hours for any type of engagement to happen prior to installing, the Great People platform. And after that, just a simple text, adding text, immediately they had their numbers just went off the charts. And the littlest things, and again, this, Susan, because you have to crawl, right? Don't be afraid to crawl and then walk and then run, and make sure that your provider is right by your side to help you with, those metrics and how do we get better, and trying different things, because that's the only way that you're going to definitely see the improvements.
Right. Like, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time to plant a tree is today. So you've got to start. Let's talk about how great customers can attract and engage talent through their career pages.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, making sure that you lead with your employer value proposition, right? Making it very obvious, why us, right? Why should you be considering an opportunity with us? Expressing your core values, and great ways to do that are through, video testimonials of your current employees, a day in a life, really putting forth a strong lead on compelling reasons why you should be working for our organization. I think it's also important to express, what the process is, right? So lay out the expectations, don't leave people guessing. But I think that ability to communicate in time just makes a world of difference on, the engagement expectation side of somebody, expressing interest in your organization or to a job, is making sure that you are delivering the appropriate message for somebody. If somebody had already been in a job process, you don't want to be sending out messaging that is like, here, this is us, I know who you are. And, I talk to a lot of people in your organization. I want to continue forward. So, yeah, I think those are some of the things that are important.
I think it all comes down to personalization, right?
Yeah.
Right. And having the technology that allows me to create specific landing pages that is directed just towards engineers, or just towards, whatever the job profile is, it's going to make me value that company more, because I get more of a feeling as to what it's like. So, yeah, I think personalization is absolutely key. And I also think from the recruiter's responsibility is automation. So automation is, that's a lot to do, right? That is a lot beyond everything that I have to do in my normal day. And, my original background is I was a practitioner, so I did the job. So now when I think about, oh my gosh, on top of that, I have to put on another hat. Let's let the technology do what it should do. Let's let them have automated campaigns and do all these things that we can really have some nice reach, but still bring the personalization to the people that need it.
better to build an applicant tracking system than somebody who actually did the job. And I think the job has changed so much, right? So we, back in the day, I don't want to age myself, but I mean, like when I started recruiting, you could be on AOL dial-up for 2 hours and you were trying to get all the numbers off the internet to call, and you were cold calling and picking up the phone. And now there are recruiters that are sitting with, 40 or 50 recs on their desk and don't have time for all of these pieces. Tell me, what do you think have been some of the biggest wins that your customers have had with your system? And then I want to talk about maybe anything that might be overwhelming when you're thinking about a career page before we get to my favorite part, where we get to talk about nurturing. And while you're answering that, put how many recs you have on your desk or how many recs your team carries in the chat. I'd love to know.
Yeah, I think that we at Great People have an opinion about how CRMs can be organized to offer optimum value. So the idea that you can organize lists of talent by an area of a career area, and then be able to do lots of things, such as understanding the specialties that somebody may have or that I'm looking to align, and being able to maybe even just 3 buckets. So who's net new to my world of data, my new leads, right? Who are people that have been previously considered, and who are people that kind of dropped off after 90 days, they kind of just went dark. And really having the opportunity to have, again, like Diane had said, a lens of personalization based on the career track somebody's looking for, but also being able to create messaging to people who are net new and letting the system kind of manage that engagement, right? So very strategic approach, crawl, walk, run potentials to see that ROI. But the idea that that messaging journey could be flexed to the point where if they are net new and they apply to a job, you're not continuing them on that journey, but you may transition them to, more of the interview engagement and, the itinerary for interviews, or, a text that you've, check your email. We have extended you an offer via text. So I think that our wins have been knowing that the job of a recruiter has changed so much, and not only from a volume perspective, but the types of interactions are required, right? So those are the things that I think technology does best. And our goal in our CRM is to consistently deliver a list of people that the recruiter should be paying attention to, right? So do enough from the strategic side on, I have 5 landing pages that I want to make sure people are getting to, and I can measure that. And then how am I converting people who have visited those pages into being accepted by the business for interviews? So, I think that's the value that we see in having a very intelligent, connected CRM environment.
Love the idea of the landing pages, right? Because if you are a finance person and you're on the, you're an engineering company and you're looking at everything engineering, what gets you excited about doing finance for engineers, right? You've got to start to really specialize that and make it appealing to people. And back to the values piece too, right? You talked about people want to be connected. How do you build that page that really connects them?
Yeah, the other thing that we've seen happen is the ability to kind of flex our platform to how people want to work, right? So we talk about how the world has changed. People are a lot more thoughtful and, attention's being given to, they want to work on projects. They only can offer, part-time work. So the idea that you can identify those opportunities easily on your site and create the applied data collection, easy to say, this is really exactly what I'm looking for. I think just helps both the recruiter and the person that's looking to work.
And not only personalize the experience for the job seeker, but also for the recruiter doing the job. If it's a gig employment or high volume, right? I want that path to be different. I don't want them to have to go through maybe as many steps if it's high volume. I want to ask them a couple questions, and maybe I want it all digital and that I never even communicate with them. And next thing you know, they go into a class and they're ready to run. Every experience, even by job, should be able to have a workflow that can help support that to alleviate some of the heavy task work that recruiting has to do.
Yeah, it's amazing to think about being able to personalize each piece, right? So that, if you're a part-time person, I probably don't need a background check on you and need all of these other pieces. So why am I still making you fill out this extended application when, if you're going to work for a security company, I get it. There are probably more things that we need to gather. So you can do both of those in the same applicant tracking system for different populations.
Yes. Yep. We can do it for everyone. That's why I try to make it simple, call it the everyone platform, right? But I think from that perspective, and back to Jayne's point, is we want to work with customers because, again, for some customers, they are CRM experts and they want to come in and they want to press and push everything we have. And we are like, yes. On the other hand, back to the crawl, we have some similar to when you first started that we're just trying and really being able to set those metrics and measure the metrics. And even on the application process, is it too long? I don't know. Are we having drop-offs, right? So having those key metrics set and that our team can work with you to set them so all the responsibility doesn't fall on you. Again, that's what the technology and the team should do to support the customer.
Yeah, your poor team. Every week I was like, I have a new idea. We've tried this. We've given it its time. I want to do this. Like, that was really fun. I want to talk about, I'm going to do one poll really fast. And then the poll is, do you currently have a CRM? While people are explaining that, Laura and I've had a lot of conversations. Can you explain the difference between a CRM and an applicant tracking system and how they work together?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So a CRM exists to help TA teams manage kind of the passive job seekers. So people that are not in a job process, right? So CRMs can also be extended to support the career site experience, right? So landing pages, everything that you would think about when you need to tell the story about your organization. A CRM needs to be capable of understanding, where they are in the process. So somebody who is new to your company, somebody who's currently engaged, somebody who's an internal person, right? And the real job is to understand if somebody's qualified, interested, and available, right? The goal is to convert. I think I've said this before, which, TA marketing is different, is that, you don't want everybody to buy your car, right? You have jobs and there's certain talent that you need, right? With certain skills and certain backgrounds. So, that makes marketing even harder, right? So the idea that you can have that intelligence in your CRM engine to understand somebody's desires, to where they want to work, how they want to work, and also their areas of expertise is very valuable. And at the end of the day, you want to leverage, AI to build lists of pipelines, right? So you want to help the recruiter out and say, we know these people, they're not in a job process. Here's a list of people that you should call, you should target. And that's really the role of a CRM, is to take all of the the resources and expense that you've put out into the sphere of marketing, and be able to reuse that, whether it's driving people to beautiful landing pages that you've spent a lot of time and money on, or re-engaging people that you knew 6 months ago that are now available for a role. The ATS's role is really to manage the hiring process and all of the stakeholders. Another complex area, right? So lots of people are involved, and Diane had said that not all jobs are created equal. So recruiters need to manage different requirements for different roles. So a good solid ATS needs to help the recruiter understand and provide some levels of governance to somebody's in a certain country, you need to get consent. This job requires a background check. Let's make sure that happens before we click hire. So the job of an ATS is really to make all of the stakeholders weigh in, make the hiring experience pleasant for everybody. And then again, just convert them and make them a good hire. And then ATS is also, supportive for internal mobility. So the opportunity for your current employees to say, I want to move to this project, or I'm looking to, move to this location. So it's also supported in that realm.
One of the things that I think I have gleaned from our conversation, right, is as you're building this, all of these landing pages, and you're being transparent and you're talking about all of this stuff, your goal would be to post a job and not have 1,000 applicants. Your goal would to have been so clear about what you need, want, do, have to have, that you maybe have 20 applicants and 5 of them are great applicants, right?
That would be ideal.
Yeah, that would be a goal, right?
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the other thing beyond that is again, to your point of, it's truly a funnel, right?
Right.
It is a funnel. Right. That's what we hope for. On the other hand, we have things that sneak into that funnel that we might want to check out a little bit further. So again, enabling the technology to maybe ask certain questions of people, right? So, can you lift 50 pounds? Do you have this skill set? Because that can help you, again, whittle your funnel to get eventually those 20 people. Because at the end of the day, the job of the CRM is to get people to apply to jobs. Mm-hmm. So if we've done a really good job of making you feel good about our company, and we have beautiful graphics, and man, I am getting the warm and fuzzies, I want to apply to a job. And that's when that, the CRM and your EVP and everything is working.
Laura, let's close this poll and see how many people have a CRM before we go further. Okay, so 57% do and 43% don't. Very surprised?
Well, of course, I want to ask like a bunch of different questions.
what 2 questions would you ask?
Well, my question would be, how many people are happy with what they have, and do they feel that it's doing what it should be doing?
The value.
Right? Is it bringing the value that even based upon what we've talked about so far?
Oh, we have some questions that are coming up that we're going to answer in a little bit, but tell me, how do you measure value in a CRM?
Yeah, and CRMs have been around for a while now, right? So the big publish was that adoption, right? So, and we think really hard about adoption and the role of CRM in the process. And we really came out with an opinion that there has to be some guide rails around how you create lists of people. And by doing so, you can have a very strategic approach and not overwhelm, either corporate marketing or recruitment marketing on how you're going to continue your nurturing, your messaging, because again, there's brand and there's brand guidelines, and you want to have, the thumbprint of the company on what you want to set up. So we really have leaned into a lot of automation to help the recruiters do that. So It's not necessarily that we created a funnel for people that are leads in CRM, but there's definitely stages, right? So you're newly added, or you've come back in from being on in a job process and are no longer, weren't selected. But now you're in a stage of being engaged. We're asking you questions. We're having phone screens. We're having conversations. You're answering texts. So we wanted to make it not another thing that the recruiters had to pay a lot of attention to. And, we really help in kind of the upfront side of it. So, let's take a population of jobs that you really want to make better, like have a better pool of people, and let's focus there. Let's focus on a certain population, and let's create a 3 email journey, and let's look at the conversion and things that are working, things that are not working. And then, oh, guess what? It's working. Well, let's repeat that in this segment. So we know when recruiters are exercising that list of qualified people that we've done our job. When we see people flowing through those stages of a pool and converting to be applicants, then we know that we're adding kind of value on the CRM side.
Just to be clear, I think I know this answer, but do they have to have applied to a job to be in your CRM?
No, they have to either have expressed an interest to understand more about your organization. We do have integrations, with LinkedIn and Indeed. And as those people are nurtured, they can be part of the CRM process. Great People is unique in that we offer CRM on its own, with the ability to intake kind of what's happening over on the job side, because that informs the system on where somebody is. And I think that that's a little elemental to a successful CRM. You need to understand the life cycle of somebody's talent acquisition journey. Otherwise, you're going to blow it on the messaging, et cetera.
How many times have you heard, like my clients, I hear this from my clients all the time. They're like, I've been in the system for this long, and then I just got this email. It's either dumb or they don't know where I am. And I'm like, it's the system, right? Like this is not somebody doing it, but it's somebody that's got something out of whack, and they don't realize that they're not sending the right messages.
Yeah,
so if
I'm sorry, I do think some companies are getting a little more brave, trying to engage and even putting, what the salary requirements are for a position. Wouldn't that be really helpful? Also, what stage of the process am I in? Some systems do have the capabilities of doing that. And again, to Jayne's point, you might want to try it with a segment to see, and then do a poll and see, how well, what's our score here that we're trying to achieve in engagement. And because what we know is that even if we have a job seeker who does not get hired, but they have a great experience, they're going to tell other people about your company. And that too is a big win. So we want to try to measure all of those things.
Was always sad to me when you would call a candidate to turn them down, and they would thank you for turning them down, right? Like, thank you for calling me and letting me know. You're like, of course, right?
Yes.
Like, that's the least, that's the very least I can do. I like the idea of segments, right? Because when I think about nurturing and getting out there and getting the right messages in place, like it could feel overwhelming. One of the questions I was going to ask, and I think you've answered it a little bit, is like, I go to my SVP or my executive sponsor, whoever it is, and I'm like, I've got an applicant tracking system, but I need a CRM. And they're like, well, you've got an applicant tracking system, you've got all the people there. How do you get the buy-in from the executive team to understand that the CRM is different and that they need it?
So I'll just start with a blanket statement, is that, talent acquisition is not just a topic for recruiting. It is a topic for the business. And especially today, business leaders, SVP of talent and above everyone needs to, and I do believe they recognize the value of this talent. And when they don't have it, how that has a bigger impact on a lot of times the financial performance of the company overall.
Yeah, and I would just say, I think we talked about it, an ATS, they definitely, support a career site. So they're spending money on a lot of money on advertising to get people to their site. So what if they don't find the job? You got them there. Okay. There's that. But then also if people aren't selected or they want to be shifted around, it's really difficult for recruiters to know everybody that they interviewed and how far they got. And, I think there's tremendous value in being able to leverage information about people who didn't apply, are sourced in other places that you can get them to apply. And then also be able to manage people that have gone through a process or referrals, people who've gone through a process that Diane said, and they loved the experience, didn't work out, but they would certainly recommend a role with your organization. So there's lots of lanes for understanding the return of a CRM. And it really has to, it's a return on investment on the advertising and the people that you've already engaged, the money you have spent on all of your marketing assets, and how do you reach a bigger net and find, the best talent.
That's a great point. Like, you have gone out there, you've spent the advertising dollars, you've pulled them into your system. You may have had 150 applicants for that job, and you went through, this many got interviews because, the early bird catches the worm a lot of times. And then wouldn't it be amazing if the next time the job opens up, you post the job and bloop, there are 5 people that you should start with and call these people because you've nurtured them there and they're right there. You don't have to go out or the famous post and pray and wait. They're there waiting for you, and you've done a good job keeping them connected to your brand.
And we don't think you should choose. We think that they belong together to help the recruitment, the talent acquisition. It's core to successful recruiting is the opportunity to market to people, to keep them engaged, to retarget them. That's part of the platform for TA. So we don't feel like there should be the need, right? It should be part and parcel, right?
Tell me, we talked about this the other day, and I just want to talk about this a little bit. We talked about silver medalist engagement, and I don't think people always really do a good job of that. How does CRM help with that?
Yeah, so in the process of dispositioning people who were not selected, our system, and we can identify external systems and the disposition codes, in a positive, we want to re-engage this person. So with that information, we have the ability to kind of smart label people and put them in a segment of their career area, and then kick off a level of engagement that can be automated. So it can be saying, hey, we should connect, click here to, schedule a phone call, and we can talk through next steps for us. Or, they're easily identified. So a recruiter might go every day or whatever and say, tell me my people who are previously considered and who are silver medalists, and reach out to them via text or email. That's the job of a good CRM, is to be able to pick that up and surface that to recruiters.
I think, why don't you talk a little bit about the Jobs Digest and a little bit about AI?
Yeah, so that's another great point.
If that's okay.
Just pushing. A good CRM will do that too, is it does, leverage technology where it should. So the idea that somebody is consistently being delivered a digest of jobs that are suggested jobs based on the machine learning, what I know about you, what I know about a job, and the things that you should, maybe take an interest in. So again, a lot of outreach that can be done on behalf of the recruiter that is informed. We know where they were in the process. And again, I think we already know, we said that how important it is to deliver the right message at the right time. Is that good, Doug?
That's vanishing Jane. She keeps like,
Sorry.
so if I was going to start shopping for CRM tomorrow, what makes a great CRM? What do I need to look for? 2 or 3 things.
So I'll talk because and then Jane can certainly go since, she's head of product, but, I think it's really important to look beyond the features. And Jane's going to talk features, but I always talk about, sometimes we meet, a lot of prospects that are very, check this box and check that box. And we absolutely get that. And that's incredibly important, AI and automation and chat and all these things. But you really need to care about implementation. You need to care about what's going to happen after implementation. And you've had this experience. And for us that is just as important as the technology and the feature set, is making sure that this CRM will be successful for you in a year Y. And your Y is going to be different than my Y, but we care about those Ys. And then once we've been able to achieve that, we're going to challenge you with new Ys. And Jane can certainly speak to the feature side.
To the why. Why not? I think that a CRM needs to be additive to the, it should enable what a recruiter already has to do, and it should make their job easier. I think that, it just shouldn't be, hard to get to that list of people. It should be something that, that people, if they've done the strategy and set up the tactical side of the system, there should be an expectation that they'll be rewarded. They'll have a list of people that they can present to a hiring manager. They'll have people that will apply on their own because the system's made them aware of it. So, and I agree with Diane. I think that people matter. I think we've had this conversation, Susan, like at the end of the day, it's a people business, and, we really care. So it's important that we understand your goals, and we'll push back, where we think we should. And then customers will push back too. And that's what makes it work and makes us better. But yeah, I think that's it.
Partnership, right? So one good question is, how are you going to make my life easier if I, go with this? And then what are you going to do to help me? I think one of the biggest boo-boos of my career, right, was like, maybe not my career, but like I had to take an organization that had 550 plus users from paper to technology. And there was a lot of learning in that. And like having somebody that's going to stand beside you and go, okay, so we all learned something, right? Like that was tough, right? Take it on the chin and let's figure it out. So I do think that chemistry and that partnership is going to be really, really important. What are 2 or 3 steps that you can take to see return with a CRM?
Hires.
Yeah, I mean, I think steps that you can take are pretty straightforward, right? So I think we talked a little bit about this is, pick an area of jobs, a segment of jobs that, maybe are more difficult to build at top of the funnel, or maybe things that maybe can be faster, or, you always have a backlog of these jobs, or they are jobs that kind of pop up all of a sudden, and you have to scramble for a pipeline, right? So, and then build a strategy around that. So you could take, that segment and those specialties and create a landing page that talks about the jobs, talks about, puts a video up and talks about the people that work here and the day in the life, and put together, 3 or 4 different emails over a certain cadence of, 2 weeks, a month, and see what your conversions look like. Experiment with bringing, new sources of data and adding them to the top of that segment, and see what happens, and see where things may break down or where they may accelerate. I think those are pretty easy things to do. You can experiment broader, right? Let's not forget about like hitting, a bigger audience with a newsletter about your organization and start to get more transparent on different ideas that are going on in your organization. People love that, right? They want to know more about what you do, right? Why not? And I think that you would be surprised at the metrics that you will gain and the conversions that you'll realize by kind of starting at the top of that opportunity for segmentation.
Selfishly, it was every month for us, we'd run the report to see how many people we hired off of the newsletter, right? Because it would track them from the newsletter, from pushing on the job. It was so exciting. It's the little things I could talk about nurture all day. So we do have some questions. Before we go to the questions, is there anything else that you think somebody should know about nurturing or CRM or any of these topics we've talked about today that I've missed asking?
Well, and this is just us. So we love, as you know, we love TA, we love TA tech. We used to be practitioners and users of the tool. So if people have questions, reach out and talk to us. I mean, just ask us. We love to have that dialogue.
You did a great job, Susan, and covered a lot.
Okay, so let's see. Let's go to questions here. I know that I saw some. Can you talk about the difference between making it useful or making it easy? Oh,
so useful. I think that I've seen some organizations who may set a part of the day or a week aside for talking to people, talking to candidates. Phone screens. Yeah. So a nice, useful idea is to kind of have that as a mission. For a Monday, or over the weekend, you're letting some automation go, filling kind of the top of that segment funnel, and let automation be aware of your calendar. And then availability from 9 to 12 on a Wednesday, you're talking to people, right? So I feel like that's a great use of organization and people's time. If you have a great need, you can have multiple people that are signed up for that phone screen, and it can do some resource balancing on that. What was the other word? Useful and
useful. I already scrolled. It was useful and easy, I think, right? Like the difference.
Yeah, and I think it should absolutely be both. So logging in and seeing that list of people that have been phone screened and being able to send them the jobs that you have open to them. So those are things that should definitely be easy.
Letting AI create your slate, right? And scoring them. And, again, depending upon the path of the journey, you're disappearing.
Oh, sorry.
Depending upon the path or the journey, automate part of it, right? So depending upon the job, again, it's all about the heavy lifting, but I agree with Jayne that both of those words should be yes.
Here's a great question. I love this question so much. Are you ready?
Uh-oh.
My managers say we don't have a lot of applications because the application process is too difficult. Can you talk about that?
I mean, to me, there's a couple ways that you can help. So there's an idea of expressing interest, right? It's just real simple. Here's my name, here's my area of expertise, here's my specialties, and here's my resume, wherever you can get that information. And then looking at the drop-offs and where people are dropping off in your application process. And hopefully your ATS can give you that information. I think there's also, resume builders that you can say, upload your resume and it parses out everything. And it's just really confirming what it's parsed out. So those are nice, like low data entry environments. But what do you need to know? And can it be tailored for the job, right? Do you really need to ask these 5 things if it's this specific? And I also think chat is an important thing too, like getting somebody to the right job or the expression of interest is always to get the ball rolling, because people are more willing to give you more information once you've started a conversation, right? Like they're more willing to go through a series of data collection that may be a little bit longer, take a little bit more time if they know that there's there's a connection that's been made. And you can do that after you've collected just enough to know and start that conversation.
And we have a lot of customers that start with a little bit because they have confidence in their recruiting teams that they know with a little bit, I'm going to eventually get a lot, right?
I think there's so much wrapped up in that question, right? Like, do you have the right message on your website? Like, is it really the application, but do you have the right message on your website? Have you been nurturing them? Have you been telling them the good things? Like, if you've been telling them those good things, they're more willing to go through the process.
Right.
I also think, and tell me if you agree, I think we get so stuck, like we're so busy that we don't always go back and say, you know what, we made this application process for a reason, but what could we cut out of it? What could we take off of it? What could we change? And where are we seeing that drop off? Are most ATSs, can you go back and change that, or is that really difficult?
I mean, you should be able to change
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that should be something.
I mean, that's part of it, right? That's part of, one of the things is we're seeing, applications are not being complete. Okay, well, let's dive in and take a look at it. Let's try this. Let's make changes on the fly because, again, that's where technology is today. And then let's measure.
But I think your answer, Susan, what you said is like, there's a lot there. So, not only just looking at the apply process, but are you giving them enough information for them to spend 2 minutes, 3 minutes giving their information? And then do you have, easy technologies like uploading and parsing to help out, or chat to help out that data collection, right? It's all part of it. Yeah.
You can't parse, you can't do anything. Like, you got to parse. So what do you think is the coolest way to attract candidates on a career page, and what kind of content matters?
To me, authentic. To me is, I don't want to see, and again, I don't want to offend anyone, but
Don't offend anyone, come on.
I want authenticity. I want to see photos of their real team. I want to hear real people talk. And again, it's not, of course, it's going to definitely be, glowing and those things like that. But I think that makes me feel, to your point that you brought up earlier, that this company is really trying to speak to me as a person.
Yeah, that's true. Like the personalization, like whenever you're shopping for something, it's like if you have an interest, right? So you'll dig a little bit more about that. You'll research that thing. I think the more, even like about your company and products and white papers and things that are interesting to that talent that you're trying to attract. I think sometimes snackable, I think we said snackable content earlier, things that we're busy, right? And our attention span's not always the best, but things that people can consume and maybe say, I want to read more. I've read enough. So, but to Diane's point, it's refreshing when it feels authentic. It's real people. I think that's cool.
I also think that within the CRM, and I know within our CRM, is if Susan Collins is disappearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If Susan Collins is a candidate, I can look to see what Susan Collins has done with my content. What has she clicked on? How many times? What has she liked? So then when I have the opportunity to speak to you, I have some guidance of, hey, I see that you clicked on our corporate report, and wasn't it great that we had X growth? And I think those things, again, make me feel like, oh my gosh, you know something about me.
Right, the little hot button when it got hot that they were clicking on this. You're like, oh, there's the point, right? I also think that snackable content, right, is like that shameless plug, right? Like video overlay that JobPixel's doing, right? Where you can see the real people just scrolling them. It doesn't, like, you may have stock photos here because that's what marketing said you had to use, but when you've got the real people scrolling across that page, it feels like
Real deal.
Yep.
It is.
real deal. Yeah. Next question. What do you really need to know about the applicant before you have a conversation? Differentiate, but we kind of have that, right? Differentiate between that and what you need to collect before employment.
I mean, I think for somebody who's passive, I think that starting with their area of interest, right, and their seniority, and having that conversation, maybe they can upload their resume. But then certainly, when you get into certain job specific things, it may be more, the specific types of skills, if they're more technical or, where have you had success, maybe assessments, maybe background. But I think initially to start a conversation, it's here I am. My last job was at this place. Here's my previous job title. And, this is what I'm interested in. That should be a good starter.
Yeah, I think aspirations are the way to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so this has been fun. And I don't think I gave your titles at the beginning. Like, you two are like co-founders, like head of product, CEO, like this is it. So if there's one last question you want to know about applicant tracking system, we can take it, because I think applicant tracking systems are, that key base to everything that happens around people and talent, besides your recruiters, which are the heart of,
Yes.
I always think they're the heart of the company, but
Yeah.
heartbeat of the company. I might be a little biased though. So we really, really appreciate you coming. Like, this was just an amazing conversation. I think just so many wonderful things about y'all, and I'm thrilled that we could do this together. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you all very, very much.
Thank
and
you.
Susan, always a pleasure.
Always.
So much fun. So let's talk about next week, what we've got going on. Laura, do you want to give the outro for who we can expect next week and all the exciting things that are coming forward?
Absolutely. Yeah. So next week, we have the founder of Work It Daily, JT O'Donnell, and she is going to be joined with the co-host of the Chad and Cheese podcast, so Chad Sowash, and they're going to be talking about one of the hottest topics we hear about in talent acquisition: how to activate your social media strategy. And so
awesome. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Chad was on the first one. JT O'Donnell is always just a pleasure. She's got so many interesting things out in the market. It's going to be great. We appreciate you joining us, sticking with us, and we hope to see you next week for our final hit in the series here. So,
All right. Happy summer.
Thank y'all. Happy
Thank
summer.
you.
It's almost
Appreciate it.
over.
See ya.
Bye-bye.